let's talk football. Now, I've lived internationally for several years now and have only recently returned to the US. And when I returned, I discovered that Thursday night football is a new thing. Now, I didn't really follow American sports when I was living abroad. I was embroiled in my own thing. I had other things going on, and football was not the top of my priority list. Now that I'm here and I'm seeing it, I don't understand it. Now, I understand why the NFL wanted to do this new thing. They want to make more money, which doesn't make sense to me because I'm not terribly materialistic, and the average NFL team is worth $2 billion at least. To me, that seems like enough. $2 billion, you could do almost anything with. I mean, if you're worth $2 billion, I cannot think of a single thing you are incapable of doing aside from buying a country. And even that is negotiable. You could probably buy a country for $2 billion. Now, the thing that I'm actually really concerned about is the health of the players. Football is hands down one of the most physically intense sports in all of the world. Now, some people would argue that rugby is more physically intense because they don't wear pads and they're crashing into each other and they're tackling each other without any protection and people get hurt. Fine, you can make that distinction, but the average rugby player is not built like a refrigerator and running at you full speed. It's just not the case. So it's been proven time and time again with science and from doctors that these professional athletes are putting their bodies through hell. They are doing so much damage to their bodies, it's actually altering their brain chemistry. They're brain damaged in some cases. They are destroying their joints. It's really brutal. And that's okay in a lot of ways. Sports are tough. It does do a toll on your body, like several other career paths out there. That's not the biggest issue. The biggest issue is that it used to be once a week or twice a week that people would be playing. We start increasing the amount of time that people are putting themselves through this strain of pushing their bodies to the absolute limit and then beyond what humans are really supposed to be able to do without shattering themselves. I see a lot of issues that could arise from that. Now, a big issue that's been happening in sports as of late is violence from athletes off the field. Now, that's a different topic, but it's also related to this. Part of the reason that these people are experiencing such violent aggression, there's social reasons, but also biological reasons. When you alter your brain chemistry in an aggressive manner and cause brain damage with the constant smashing of your head into other people, you can become more aggressive. That's part of the condition. Now, doing that more often is going to increase the risk of this. So, from that outlook, adding more games and more games is not the best of ideas. Now, you could make an argument with other sports, but they're not as physically demanding as football is. Football is, hands down, the most physically demanding sport in the US. Baseball is nowhere near as physically demanding as football. Soccer is a brutal sport if you ever watch professional soccer, but it doesn't do anywhere near the amount of damage to the human body that football does. There just isn't a comparison between any of the other sports. So if they play more often, yeah, they're going to damage their body, but not in the same degree. So I don't really understand why we are pushing for more and more and more of this. This also branches into another issue I have with what's been going on with the sports industry, is that we are obsessed with it. We have created this new gladiator pit that is the NFL. And yeah, we have other sports in the US, but nothing brings in the money like the NFL. And I have real concerns about that, because if we keep demanding more and more and more and more, we're going to put more and more strain on these athletes' bodies. And the human body can only take so much. We raise them up as these bronze gods of physical perfection, but the thing is, we are squishy meat, covered bone. And all of that stuff breaks surprisingly easily. Now, these guys are in peak health conditions and they don't want them to get hurt. That's true. If a player gets injured, it can ruin their career. They don't want to be hurt. The NFL doesn't want their prize players hurt, so they take good care of them, but it's always going to happen. The same thing happens to firefighters. They have a physically demanding job. Running into a burning building is incredibly physically demanding, and it destroys their bodies. Eventually, it accumulates, and it's just going to shatter your body. That's why you don't see 50-year-old football players, because their body is broken. They cannot do it anymore. They're physically incapable of playing the sport anymore. It would kill them. Now, this doesn't mean that the NFL is bad or that sports are bad or any of that malarkey. Now, what it means is we need to moderate ourselves. I don't know what's going to happen with this new Thursday night thing, but we need to have a better understanding of what the repercussions of the sport are before we start pushing people for more and more and more. There's only so much we can demand of people. One suggestion I would have is potentially make more teams. Now, there are not that many teams in the US. A lot of cities have them, but it's not a huge number. I don't know the exact number, but it's not massive. But if there are more teams, there can be more games, and they can rotate out and people get a rest. Now, I know people are going to make the argument they're not playing a game after game after game after game. That's true. But they are increasing the amount of games they're playing. They need a rest. These people are shattering their bodies. They need to have a week rest every now and then, a week where they don't play. And that's okay so let these people have a rest. And that's my 2 cents on it. I'd like to hear what you have to say. What do you think of Thursday night football? Where do you think it's going to be going in this new trend of more of the NFL? I'd like to hear what you have to say.